Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Oh, hell yeah! That's what I'm talking about. Oh, nothing to do with mental health. I mean, yeah, it's still positive mental health.
It's all
please,
in your brain. It's all part of your biography.
Dope.
Okay, so
this is where I ran out of things to say.
it's a photo of, it could be a collection of movies or books. And at the top it says Pandemic Legacy, and below that, it's basically a stack of what could be books, but I would probably guess is movies. No, maybe not movies, probably books. So we've got Pandemic Legacy, and beneath that it says Red Rising, and beneath that Dune, and beneath that Outer Rim. These are all titles that I know and I've seen. Let's see, this is in a bookcase or something, or a shelf in your apartment. Okay, so
right over there.
Okay,
I think.
What great things will we learn from this?
So these are board games, my friend.
Nice.
And it is because I love board games.
Okay.
I'm deeply passionate about board games. And they make me very
I love
happy.
your passion.
Oh, I love board games. And I think when I sent this to you, I'm like, man, don't know if I'm like an interesting enough guy to be on a fucking podcast.
Yes, you are.
But I'm gonna wax lyrical.
Okay.
About the beauty of board games.
Okay.
And that's like gonna be my challenge to myself. Is like I'm gonna make this shit art, man. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it beautiful, right?
So what is a board game?
Wow, what isn't a board game,
Okay.
sir? No. You know, like when you're a kid, everyone plays board games. You play like Monopoly and fucking Snakes and Ladders.
Yeah.
Actually, you start with Snakes and Ladders, then you graduate to Cluedo or Clue, and then you end up playing Monopoly and flipping tables, and no one likes Monopoly, and we don't know why we play it. It's like some weird masochistic exercise that we all partake in.
Okay.
And that's it. And then like 25 years ago, some dude invented this game called Settlers of Catan, this German guy who passed away recently.
I've heard, so I have heard of it. I got it for my daughter, and I look at it, and it's just, it never, okay, so talk to me about
So
Settlers
anyway,
of Catan.
basically, it's like a more complex game.
Okay.
It's like the way, it's like the same evolution with video games, how you have Pac-Man and Space Invader.
Yeah.
And now you have like freaking role-playing games with like stories and like skill trees and shit like that.
Yeah.
The evolution occurred for board games as well. And now there's this massive subculture of like really relatively complicated board games.
Right.
I mean, once you get into it, you don't think they're that complicated,
Yeah.
but like they are. Like
You have to learn the world. Yeah.
Like, well, like it like takes half an hour to teach some of these fucking games,
Sure,
and
sure.
if I could teach a game in 20 minutes, I'd be like, that's not that complicated.
Right.
I mean, there's one game, Twilight Imperium, 4th edition, which I tell people at parties, or if I was single, girls I want to hit on, that it is the Cadillac of board games.
Okay.
They love this shit. And then I'm like, you know, I sort of smile at them, kind of like unbutton my top button, and I'm kind of like, yo,
So
bro.
are you flirting with me?
No, stroke the back of their head if they give me consent to do so. And then I say, this game takes 12 hours to play.
Okay, nice.
In order to learn how to play it, you have to watch a 2-hour YouTube video.
What?
Yeah. And that's the speed way of learning how to play it.
nuts.
And even after you watch that video, you probably won't know how to play it because that's a lot of information to digest.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's the Cadillac of board games, and everyone who likes board games should play it at least once.
Okay.
I play it like 25 times. It's amazing, but it's
Right.
a 12-hour experience. It is a marathon physical experience because you start at like 9:30, 10 a.m., and then you're like a dead person by the end of it. And in the last 4 hours, your
What a
decision
trip.
making's compromised, and like you could barely make. And it's basically a space epic.
Wow.
Like you choose an alien race, they choose alien races, and you like basically try to conquer the galaxy or create the best economy. It's like one of these games that tries to do everything at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like one of those like 5X video games, right? So anyway, that's just Twilight Imperium. But the point is that this is kind of like the spectrum, right? You got Settlers of Catan on one end, which is 15-minute game to learn. You got Twilight Imperium, there's 2 hours game to learn, and all of them are different experiences.
Right.
And the reason I want to wax lyrical about the beauty of board games, because mental health's like okay, right? But like board games, right?
Okay, you keep going. Here's what's interesting is that it's as a person just meeting you.
Yeah,
I get to reflect back to you what I see. So you go. I love it.
So like, I've always loved games.
Yeah.
Like, they were my escape. Growing up, I was not a happy kid because I was undiagnosed as well. I was messed up, right? But video games were my escape.
Okay.
Like, and I grew up around the time that the internet was coming to the fore and my parents didn't understand it. So I played like online games for the first time with people. My friends were on the mic, we're talking to each other, we're hanging out.
Nice.
At the time, that was a new thing. Like, that didn't exist as an experience, right? And they had older people had no comprehension of this whole experience, right? And that was my way of hanging out with my friends. Yep. More than like going to the mall or hanging out. It was this online experience, right? And I loved video games and I loved these online experiences. I went to university, I played like these massively multiplayer games like World of Warcraft. It was always video games. Until I was like in my mid-20s and then someone introduced me to board games. I won't go into it, but tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, which I'm also very passionate about. And I realized that board games are just an amazing way to hang out with your friends.
Yeah, very social.
It's so social because you're around a table and you've come up with this excuse for a competitive activity so you can socialize with them. Yeah. And as someone that's like kind of socially anxious at times, it is just a fantastic context in order to spend time with people. And enter there's something very human about games and game making and creating like these rules with these objectives and these imaginary fantastical settings and you get to just deep dive into it. So I freaking love board games, man. They're magical experiences. Like that one at the top, Pandemic Legacy Season 1. There's this game called Pandemic. It's quite popular.
Oh, but it's a reflection of the past 3 years? Yeah, I got it.
Fuck yeah, man. Actually though, right? Like might have caused it for all we know. Yeah. It's way too real. It came out 5 years ago and it's literally, we've lived it.
That's nuts.
And Legacy Season 1 is like the company being like, let's create Pandemic, right? Yeah. But what if you played on the same board and the game just changed all the time? And we added stickers for each session and like the disease warped and there's a storyline. And it's this like weirdly ambitious, messed up thing where it's like, imagine playing Cluedo, except like you played the same game of Cluedo over and over again, but things changed. Like your investigator became smarter or like the murder was never caught or things like that. So it's a legacy game. It's a whole subgenre and it's just brilliant stuff like that. They're all based, a lot of them are based on intellectual properties that I love. Like Red Rising is, Henrik loves this series as well. It's a sci-fi book series and the game's based on that. You got Star Wars, you've got Dune, my favorite novel of all time. I love Dune. It's my favorite novel. All these sort of like IPs that you get to fantastically be in. So this is just something that it's the thing that I in terms of recreational activity, I look forward to the most in my life. I'm very lucky because my partner, my fiance, she loves board games relatively, maybe not as much as me because I'm a nerd as hell, but quite a lot. And she's very good at them as well. And so it's also a romantic activity. We'll crack open a bottle of wine, we'll lower the lights, get out a candle, play Dune Imperium.
So let's pull back a second and let's, in the sense of, okay, we're pulling back the focus and I don't remember the name of this US president who said, if you want to understand how to wrap your head around a problem, enlarge the problem. Just keep pulling back and make it bigger and bigger. So just get a bigger perspective.
Good advice.
So in the same way, so here we have, some people play cards, some people play poker for like hours.
I was a professional poker player for a while.
No, you'd be the second, you are the second person. Yeah.
Okay. We learned together.
Nice. It's this idea that, okay, how do we make sense of the world, right? So in a way, the board game creates this, the rules and these boundaries where you're sort of interacting within those boundaries. Yeah. And in your particular case, this really fulfills a channel or way for you to connect with others. Now, how do you connect writing, performing, mental health ambassador, your book, Please Stand Back from the Platform Screen Doors, great title for a book, and the event or the experience of a board game?
They're safe spaces.
Okay.
Because they have boundaries. Right. And a lot of my experiences are not. I think on a psychic level, there's a lot of unsafe reality for me and for perhaps a lot of people with mental health as a bipolar person. Okay. There are things that a single sentence or a way someone looks at me can ruin my day and derail everything I want to do. So in a way, life is not safe, for me. Although I am physically well taken care of, mentally not so much. But places like the board games, the poetry, creating is at worst a safe space. Not always. Sometimes I get depressed doing these things. But at best, they are tools to overcome even what I go through outside of them. Like with poetry, being able to write about my experience and transform, say, pain into something more positive, right? That's powerful. But in the end, they're all safe spaces where I can also be myself. And I've always found that very, very difficult because I'm a habitual people pleaser and I'm very hypersensitive to how other people react to a neurotic extent. And so anything that takes me out of that and lets me be me and authentically me and whatever the hell that is like a godsend for me. It's like all I want, to be honest. Like I just want to be like okay with being myself and being whatever the hell that is.
Nice. I hear it as well of you saying that and having been myself in a situation with that dark place where just like I don't recognize myself. How do I get out of this hole? In a way, it gives you kind of a vacation. You know, okay, we're sitting around the table. You know, the world around us can fall apart, but for the next, 12
boundaries. It's you know, when you were talking, I was thinking when you were talking about boundaries, and like that's what it is. In an unbounded life, you have spaces where you have rules and boundaries, which are very comfortable. It's a very random sort of thing to say, but I think this applies to Asian culture, but it also applies to Western culture maybe 100 years ago. There are very specific etiquettes involved for social interaction, things you could and couldn't say, and in a way is very regulated. If you look at period dramas even now, you can see that these patterns of etiquette and these patterns of talking, we no longer have any of those things, which in a way is more freeing, but also these lack of boundaries make it scary for a lot of people to do things like just interact, because there's so many, you don't know what to do, right? Unless you're very well socially calibrated. And we all have that to some degree. So like more and more and more, we need safe spaces. Not for like necessarily the dialogue sense of safe space where we can talk about things, but like literally, dude, you can't go online anymore without reading about how the world is ending or like there's a massive culture war or like there's a literal war. Like there's so much lack of safety in terms of like how we deal with relatively mundane shit, you know, like we're not physically at risk, but we're at risk of all these other things that make us really freaking miserable and neurotic. So yeah, having things like the board games, the poetry, the also creating something is just, it's kind of magical because you made something out of nothing, or you made something out of your experiences. It wouldn't have existed. I love what you said about discovery versus creation. I've never thought of it that way. That's so interesting.
I'm just a parrot.
That's so interesting. Yeah,
but isn't that interesting? Though?
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. That's very articulate. I like that. That's so interesting.
It's there to be
discovered. Yeah.
But the art that you create is really unique.
And it's like a lot of it was through a process of dealing with very human struggles, like fear, fear of the unknown, or chaos and randomness and being unable to predict the future. And just like, which happens with a lot of art as well, like whether it's poetry or otherwise, it's the same process, but you create something different. Instead of an explanation for these things, because you add a spirit or a soul or something you can interact with, you create a story or you create a poem. So it's a very human process. So yeah, I totally agree. It comes from a very similar place, even if the outcome is different.
Right. I'm going to pause this now, and I'm going to ask you to find a poem if you're down, and then maybe end this conversation with you reading one of your pieces.
Is there any particular theme or
up to you, whatever you like?
Okay,
run with it.
Cool. Okay, all right. It's called An Atheist's Prayer. I'm gonna Matthew McConaissance tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, wake up at 6 a.m., go for a run, hit the gym, meditate, eat some fucking kale, avoid all social media, read some articles, learn, work on your passion, get one step closer to the top of the mountain, hit the ground running, productive as hell. The morning of, my brain spun the roulette wheel, bet on red, came up black. And now I feel scared. I don't know what of or why. I guess I'm just scared of being alive. I want to skip all the way back to night, past the time like I'm in Skyrim. Is that air I'm breathing? I could really go for my own personal Morpheus. There is no spoon, or in other words, getting out of bed should be no big deal. But it feels like I just woke up in a war zone, even though the sky is blue. In my fridge, I've got food, I got clean water, a hot shower, I got a family too, and you do this every day, don't you? So why can't I? Balance the equation of depression. On one side is misery and inaction. On the other side must thus be that I gotta be so pathetic that I can't hack this. What's my excuse? Someone wrapped chains around my bed whilst I wasn't looking. That's gotta be it. They came in at night, broke down the door, shot me with a tranquilizer dart, lingering after effects of a break-in. The invisible chain gang. That's why I'm scared of nothing. Like a child is scared of monsters under the bed. I have food, but I don't want to eat, and the not wanting, it must all be my responsibility. I stink, but I don't want to shower, because this stench is what I think I deserve to smell like I'm toxic, like I'm a vampire sucking the light out of everyone else's eyes. You can read the symptoms off in the DSM, or Google it. You can have a therapist tell you it's your brain playing tricks, you can be given pills and a diagnosis, but you also suspect that there are people that love you, that there are people you respect, who deep down or out loud say and think, what's wrong with him? And the litany of isn'ts, if onlys, if he just but sneers and laughs. Like I've fallen off the ladder somewhere in someone else's mind, a cautionary tale, a joke without a punchline, a failure. And if the mind reigns supreme, or because genetics, nature, nurture, who gives a shit, we'll never really know. But if the cards I'm dealt amount to a low blow that's got other people rolling their eyes, well then I'm going to perform a magic trick. If the mind reigns supreme, then I will meet my demons on that field, and I will build a church. Yes, I'm an atheist. There are no gods. When you die, it's game over, man. The problem of evil has no solution, but still on some field in some mental space, I lay the bricks of a church. Okay, shit, that's way too much effort. I mean, cathedrals are expensive, so how about a shrine? An altar? I lay stones on the ground, and I get on my knees, and I pray. I know, even the voices are shocked. They think it must be a joke, but no, in the face of all this horse shit, I, an atheist, prays. And my prayer is that there will be days that come with a storm in tow, and on those days my soul will for reasons unknown be laid low. But one day, the sun will rise with such glory, smog-free, an orgasm in space, and the clouds will shit rainbows out all over the place, and the blue sky will be how I feel inside one day. It's a weird prayer, right? But one day, I will wake up without fear in my heart. Instead, courage will rage through my blood with the drive of an army on the march to grab hold of every second of the day. I will carpe the diem like nobody's business. I will conquer my to-do list like Alexander, except I will actually be great one day. There will be no chains upon my bed. Gravity will reverse. I will grow wings, and I will fly out into the day, grow my own organic kale, eat avocado toast like a good millennial. And the minute hand will crawl, but the hours will soar. And I will smell the scent of my espresso, will taste the nutty notes, will take the cleanest poop, will feel so deeply alive because the opposite of depression is not happiness, it's vitality. And the opposite of darkness is light. On that day, one day, I will strive. There will be no task that I cannot overcome. There will be no email that will go unanswered. All effort will be rewarded, and all the work of all the years will burst out from the ground like a garden, will rocket skywards like some kind of crypto scam. All competitions won, all lessons taught, all promotions awarded, all points scored. One day, despite all the days that came before, I will be standing in the air, hands in the air, crying, Adrian, after decking Apollo Creed. In a fucking movie that I wrote the screenplay for, that I starred in, that launched my career as an international action sensation, one fucking day I will fly through the sky. I will ride the new MTR line. I will visit temple and learn truths. All audiobooks will be listened to. All Coursera courses finished. I will build castles in the sky out of multicolored Lego bricks, piece by fucking piece. and I will invite all my friends to see. And they will look at me, and they will not say either with their words or their eyes or their silences in between that I am weak. They will know that this day is a victory, not just for me, but for every one of my brothers and sisters chained to their beds every day. This I pray in the altar of my mind. These words I say in the midst of this depression, in this land of unhope, in this meager punishment for a minor crime that no court sentenced me to. In this quirk of a brain, as the minutes of the day turns to sand and wash down the drain, that one day I will breathe the free air. And I will meet my own eyes in the mirror, and I will assume that every man and woman who glances at me in the street is checking my fine ass out. And I have to be but one thing instead today, and that is brave. For today I am scared of invisible thoughts. And that's okay. My future self gives me permission to lie in bed. Wait, nothing is lost because of that soon-to-be day. Instead, play The Legend of Zelda again. Eat an entire jar of Nutella. Call and bitch and cry and scream, or just wait. And pray to my future self, my happiness yet to be, my victories yet to come, that though I walk through the valley in the shadow of death, depression, anxiety, and delusion, thou art with me, my one day.
Yes. Vishal, yes. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
No, it's my pleasure. So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.